This week we're talking circus musicals, rooftop screenings, and a show that left us wondering, is there anybody?
Plus, how do you cope when admin takes over your creative life? Hello and welcome to Pain in the Arts, the podcast about the arts and creative sector in Wales, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the why did I choose this career moment. I'm broadcaster Chris J. Birch, and
I am Jack Research, artist, writer, and editor for the Edit Wales. Each week we're going to break down what's going on in the arts and creative sector in Wales. So stick around if that's for you.
So if you work in the arts, if you want to work in the arts, or if you just love it from afar, welcome. You're in good company here whenever you're watching us. Before we get into the arts and creative sector in Wales, we do just have to say a huge thank you if you're watching / listening through YouTube for subscribing, because we have just surpassed today 1,000 subscribers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
1,000 subscribers.
Makes it all the more real, but makes me all the more nervous that people are listening.
Nervous the people are listening. Why?
Because this evolved from just sort of like random conversations that we would have in a car, and we would always jokingly say, we should have a podcast. We should put this into a podcast and see if anybody cares. People do actually care.
Yeah, I was in the Wales Millennium Centre today, and the lady who was making my coffee for me this morning behind the bar, she was smiling. You know when people smile at you a little bit strangely, and not to do away from that. I'm sure she had a lovely smile, but it was just a bit strange the way she was smiling. And I said, "Oh yeah, thank you very much." And she said, "I like your podcast." I know.
Well, that's nice to hear.
But people don't really comment that much, you know, especially on YouTube.
No, but we do find that on our social media algorithms that like people seem to engage by viewing, liking, sharing, adding it into like a little collection on TikTok and things like that. But they don't necessarily comment. It's almost like commenting shows that they're there. I don't know. Maybe it's the way social media is moving now. I, to be fair, don't comment that much on things on social media.
Me neither, to be honest. And do you know what? I think it's a thing that leads into arts and creative very slightly, because you do find that people put their work out there or put a photo of their work online, and because people don't engage with it, it's almost a little demoralizing. But at the same time, it is actually being viewed and people like it. It's just they're choosing now not to engage, which is a little bit weird. It's a little bit disconcerting, but they're out there.
Well, to me, it tells me, and I've had this feeling for a really long time now, that we're making the slow shift back towards analogue media. I think people like the tangibility of like having things physical in their hands.
Do I have a physical one?
Well, I do have a physical thing in my hand, actually.
Example
Folding
one?
rock. I'm bringing props every episode.
I've noticed
now.
this.
I've always got something. I'm with my pine cone.
I've
been thrown away.
No, I promise you I did. But I've noticed that there is a new prop of some description on this area every single week. We've gone from cups, now we have lights, now you have a book. What's next?
I do like a prop, but no, this is talking of going back to like analog and things being tangible and real. So this is a magazine that I've recently become aware of. This is issue 4 that they've just released now, and it's a new Welsh literacy magazine. And it's
I haven't come across. So what's in it? Just so I know.
So it's a collection of stuff, really. It's a collection of all different fiction and non-fiction writings from Welsh writers. They may not necessarily live in Wales. Some of them do, some of them don't. And it's really interesting. I picked this one up from the book space in Cateys.
Yes, we like the book space,
because they sell that there. They sell like a really good selection of magazines there, independently sort of like made ones. They actually have their launch party this week, which I did say I was going to go to, but I've been so manic pretty much every evening this week, I haven't been able to make it, unfortunately.
And theatre writing, I mean, we'll get into that. Can I just say, before we move on from this, this is not a sales pitch for Folding Rock. We did actually buy this, but it is a very attractive magazine. Book? Is it book? Are we calling it? Is it book?
Well, no, it's a magazine. Like, they do say it like on the back as well, that Folding Rock is a bold magazine publishing the best short fiction, creative non-fiction and literacy criticism from Wales and beyond.
And you are a fan of a good looking book as well as good content.
Yeah, I do. I will be honest. I will 9 times out of 10 buy a book based on the cover, or buy a magazine based on what they're using on their front covers. And these are definitely, what I love about these is I picked up the first edition, and then I picked up this one because it is their most recent one. I'm going to head on over to their website at some point and order 2 and 3, just so I've got the full collection, and then I'll sign up to it then, so I've got it constantly.
I see. Okay.
Although saying that though, I don't know. I'll have to. So it was one of the co-editors, Catherine, that I met with, and we sort of chatted about both running like magazines and stuff like that, and potential ways that we would maybe work together as the edit involved in rock, and so that's how I got introduced to it. But I like the idea. I'm gonna have to ask Catherine, are they gonna, I'm assuming, constantly keep it for sale in the book space? Because I would like that sort of ritual, I think, of once a quarter going down there, grabbing a coffee from a local coffee shop along the way, popping into the book space Cardiff, picking up my latest edition of Folding Rock. So I don't know, I might, because if I really do believe that we're moving back towards analog and physical things, because you see musicians now that are leaning more towards wanting like CDs and vinyls,
yes,
and their music to be on that, because you interact with that differently as you would if it was on your phone or on the internet in streaming platforms and stuff like that. So I do think that like having that ritual thing that you do when you go and buy your magazine, it goes hand in hand with that form of media, really.
Have you seen that, on the note of going back towards analog, have you seen that what are we? We're I don't know if you can say it, millennials. So there's Gen Z, Z is the word, is the letter, and then there's Gen Alpha. A lot of Gen Alpha and later Gen Z are doing something called friction maxing. Have you seen this?
I've heard of it.
It's where effectively it's where they go towards analog and they add friction back into their lives effectively, so that you're forced to listen to the entire record, the entire vinyl, rather than just skipping to the song you want on Spotify or other services like that. It's essentially adding that back into your life, the things that take longer because it's more rewarding as a result. And we're seeing a shift back to that as a result. So,
well, we are seeing a rise in more and more people now reading, which is great.
Yes.
We have got such a wide variety of Welsh fiction and non-fiction authors that are writing really great stuff. Like the Hay Festival is one of the highlights of the year for me, because I am such an avid reader. I do like.
I got to give you some exciting news then.
Go on then.
Is
it that we're getting a takeaway after this?
Oh no, but we could do
No, it makes sense. The food.
Hay Festival have been in touch with us and asked us, would we like to go up there and cover the festival from a press perspective, on behalf of the edit and on behalf of Pain in the Arts.
Yeah.
Which of course I have said yes to.
Yes, of course. We go up there every year, and we didn't cover it last year.
No.
But I think because we weren't available last year, and we didn't have anybody else that could get up there and dedicate the time to it. But it'll be really exciting because we know a lot of authors who will be there. We know a few authors that will be on like panels and talks and things like that. So it's nice to support those people from every avenue possible, because this is like the literacy event of the year, really, not just in Wales but in England. Yeah. The whole of the UK, really. So
it's the town of books.
It is the town of books.
And really weirdly, my parents live there and don't read very much.
No, and actively avoid the area when it's the book festival. But I think if I lived there, as long as they've lived there, it would wear thin after a while, because it's a small town, there's small little cobbled streets, old buildings, and people just descend on it en masse.
For the Hay Festival. You're going to love it. It's absolutely fantastic.
But it is great. I do love it.
Now, moving on from literature, we have had a busy week, Jack. Theatre-wise.
We have.
Should we start with Barnum?
Let's. I enjoyed that.
Not Bedlam, Barnum, by the way.
Well, it's a bit of both, really. It was a bit of both. I wrote in my review that it was organised chaos on the stage, and it was the perfect mix of circus, musical theatre. I went into it not knowing what to expect, like I do with most things.
I wasn't going to go.
I'd seen a lot of people were getting confused, and I think they thought that this was a kind of a retelling of The Greatest Showman.
Yes, which is fair.
Isn't. It's a totally separate story. I think someone described it to me as where Barnum ends is where the film The Greatest Showman picks up from.
Yeah,
so this is all about his life before that, which I found really interesting. It was a really good musical. We had Lee Mead, who won Any Dream Will Do.
Any Dream Will Do. Yes. My favourite musical is Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, so it is up there for me. And but yeah, he was absolutely incredible. That one song, which escapes me all of a sudden, but where he's able to, I mean, it's an incredibly fast-paced song, and he just keeps up, and his enunciation, everything was absolutely spot on. It was an incredible performance. But the circus acts all going on around them at the same time. I mean, that's a feat of engineering. It's
And
great
the
stage
fact that
management.
so much of the cast were playing multiple instruments and singing and dancing and doing acrobatics and circus performing.
All on stage.
All on stage, all totally live. Nothing went wrong, really, as far as I could tell. And if anything did, it kind of recovered in a way that it kind of looked and felt like it was part of the show.
I was going to say
which I think does bring the beauty of, like, I used to go to circuses when I was a kid. And you would see people sort of like slipping off the trapeze or falling off a giant ball. And you would. They'd sort of miss their footing and things like that. But then they quickly recover and the show goes on type thing. And it was very much like that.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to say, as long as there's no counselling involved. That's what I
know.
No legs being broken, nothing like that. Brilliant. Well, we went to see that. What else did we go and see, though?
Well, we went to the screening in Barry of Rick on the Roof.
We did. I did the Q&A.
Yeah, which was really fun. So that's a short film based on a guy who... was from Barry, got evicted from his house, and decided to go up onto the roof in protest and refused to come down, and he stayed there for 3 years.
Which was nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to be fair, I was saying this during the Q&A, I knew of some random guy somewhere in South Wales who had protested by climbing on a roof. It's one of those cultural things that just zips you by because it's today's news. And I had totally forgotten and not realised that it was 3 years he was up there. I was expecting 2 months, maybe something like that. I didn't expect it to be that long. And I didn't expect the life. But you know what I loved is that we're able to tell those Welsh stories in what was it? Like, it wasn't even 20 minutes.
It was a 15-minute film.
Yeah.
It was, when the filmmaker and the director, Isaac, because he got in contact with me and asked if I'd come to it, and I was like, yeah, I'm already coming because you're doing the Q&A hosting. I sort of had, like, somewhere deep down in the back of my mind, like, locked away somewhere. I was like, yeah, I do remember something about a guy being on a roof. Well, what was that all about? And then I went and watched the film, and I was like, do you know what? This does tell his story. But what it did more than anything was it sort of, in such, like you said, a short 15 minutes, in such a short time frame, it really encapsulated Barry as a community.
Yes, I agree with you.
Which I really liked. Like, I went to college in Barry growing up. A lot of my friends were from Barry, so I spent a lot of time down there. And there really is this sort of camaraderie, community spirit, one for all type thing. That if someone needs your help, someone on your street or someone in the area, even if they don't know you, they just know of you, will reach. And it has got that vibe there. And I think he encapsulated that so well. But he was from Barry originally.
But I think that's so important, is Welsh stories being told very honestly by the people who live in that community. Because you can't, like, to a certain extent, it would be very difficult for me, having grown up in Bargoed, to tell a story about growing up in Cardiff. Because even though they are, half an hour on a train, they are such different ecosystems of town versus city.
Yeah. Well, we would always joke about how, like, we had totally different childhoods, because I grew up in, like, a 10-minute walk from the city centre, and you lived up a mountain with a load of sheep. So what? So they're totally, even though we are only half an hour apart on the train, they are totally different. Like,
no, they are. You're quite right.
You can tell when a story is told not from a lived perspective. You can tell
100%.
And there is a trend at the moment of telling working class stories, or mining Welsh Valley stories, or these different things, and it is great to see. But what's even better to see is it being written or produced or directed by people who are from those places or have those lived experiences, and 100%. You can tell every single time if there's someone who's linked with that, who has that. Like, we're going to go and see my mixed-up tape.
Yes.
I think we're seeing that the day this goes out. This episode goes out.
Yes, it'll be Thursday. Yeah, we'll be going to see it.
So we'll give you a full lowdown on that next week.
Yes. But I interviewed, for the Edits magazine, I interviewed Katie Payne, who created it. She wrote it. She's, as far as I'm aware, she's the co-director. She's got a lot of input into it. She is the creator, the writer. She's the main performer, because it's a story that she really wants to tell. And I love that idea. I think it's
fantastic. Saw an interview that she did on a BBC radio station, where she was talking about, like, I want working class stories, my stories, to be told. And from the right perspective as well.
Yes, from the people who actually grew up in that area. I think that's so important.
Why isn't art for the working class?
Yes.
We're all consumers of the art, regardless of what class system you're from.
And just to go down that road a little bit more, I have I have seen, and I know you have seen, performances that are, and I have felt uncomfortable as a person growing up in a working class area, in a working class family, and when I'm watching a performance that is mostly a middle class audience, almost gawping, as a middle class looking down at the working class, from the valleys, that kind of style.
Yeah.
And that
It can
approach,
feel-
it's really demeaning. And
Yeah.
I left one performance that I won't name as incredibly angry about the way we had been perceived as people who live in the Welsh valleys, and it just didn't feel right. And I didn't like that performance whatsoever. But I will say that is very much in the minority of writing.
Yeah.
It is very much in the minority. But equally, not all performances are for me.
No,
I will say.
But I do think it's important, like we are now talking about this, and I know a lot of people have very similar opinions to us about if those stories are going to be made, the people that are attached to them must have like sort of a lived experience with those things. That it's important that we talk about these things like we are now, because then potential theatre writers and producers and things like that will see things like this, hear conversations like this, and be like, right, okay, I can't touch that story because it's not for me.
Yeah.
Or if I do have an interest in it, I need to have someone with me who is working with me as a co-writer or a producer who is from that lived experience, who can put it in a knowledgeable, informed, researched perspective and a place of understanding, really. Because it can come across as offensive and very much like we're putting these collection of people in a zoo and we're all pointing and laughing at them, which the one that you're talking about, it did feel a bit like that. But moving on from that,
I was going to say, I was going to say, write what you know.
Write
what you know.
But I think that's sage old advice,
It is,
really,
most
isn't it? But not a lot
definitely,
of people follow
Go
it.
on, move
but
on.
anyway, so we went also to the riverfront this week, and we went to go and see Is Anybody There?
Yeah.
I thought that it was really the synopsis from the beginning really intrigued me. It's about a spiritualist medium who, surprise, surprise, isn't really. She's a charlatan. And her fitness instructor dies, and the fitness instructor comes back to haunt her because she thinks she's a spiritualist medium and says to her, I've been murdered. You need to figure out who's murdered me. And the two of them build an unlikely pair. It was a fun production. I'd not seen anything by that theatre company before.
No.
So I was quite excited to go and see it. It was a small cast, 3 or 4 people.
I think there was a fourth person, definitely there.
Who had no speaking lines. It's an example of the difference of community theatre that is out there.
Absolutely.
And the things that are being put on, and well, like we were saying, you write things from different perspectives, different lived experiences, and we end up with a really varied amount of theatre out there.
I'll give you a really good positive from that, which was that as a non-Welsh speaker, when because it was bilingual, it was partly delivered in English, partly delivered in Welsh, and for people who weren't Welsh speakers, there was a screen so that you could read those particular sections, which was really welcome. And for me, it was the blend made it far more accessible for me, because I would like to learn the Welsh language, and so it did provide that sort of inroad for me, and I really appreciated that. For me, it was like theatre wise, it wasn't for me. It wasn't something that was up my street, to be totally honest with you. Partly because it took me out of it a little bit, because and perhaps it was because of the audio, the descriptor, and the script being put on screen. But for me, I felt that there was a disconnect between me understanding what the character was doing and the description that was going on the screen at the same time. There was too much of a disconnect.
This is a really good opportunity to talk about the fact that there are so many, like that was put there as like an accessibility aid, but it was also there for those who weren't fluent in Welsh.
Yeah.
So because it was sort of a 50-50 English and Welsh production.
Yeah.
It goes to a conversation that I think we've had a few times, where we've gone away and seen things that have had the subtitles, and we've said, do you know what? I just wish those subtitles were incorporated into the set of the production of the play. Yeah. But I even think the same thing about BSL interpreters, and this is something that me and Steph Bailey-Scott from Taking Flight Theatre discussed in our back and forth for last week's question, that accessibility is great, but let's try and be more creative about it now.
Absolutely.
Let's insert those people as a character. Like the whole point in in a BSL interpreter at present, the norm is that they are just there and they're to be ignored by anyone that isn't needing to use them as an aid. But in this production, for example, where we had ghosts on the stage that no other actor other than one other actor could see, a BSL interpreter not being referenced by anyone other than the spiritualist medium would have been a perfect way to work them into the story.
Yeah.
And I think it would have
Haunted
been
by
a really...
a BSL interpreter.
Yeah, I think it would have been a really exciting way to see that sort of accessibility aid worked into it. The same with the subtitles. It could have been quite an exciting way to do it.
Say, if you've got that idea now and you're going to run with it,
run with it.
Credit us.
Run with it, because it is such, honestly, it would be such a refreshing take to see all the different accessibility requirements, but also like, subtitling when it's a bilingual production incorporated into the stage. These people who put on these shows are so creative. And for some reason, we're not extending that creativity outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
God, we can chat, can't we? We better do some questions.
I know, we better have.
They're coming up after this. Okay, Jack, let's go with question 1 this week.
So question 1 is from Jack. Hi, Jack. I'm Jack. Nice to meet you, Jack.
Spelled the same?
No, J-A-C-K.
Okay, go for it.
So Jack has asked, I love my creative work, but the admin, invoicing and self-promotion are taking over my life. Is there an answer? How do other people cope?
Ooh, okay, Jack, not you, Jack. Good question. It does happen a lot.
Good question. Not an easy answer / not an answer that I think Jack's going to like to hear, which is you kind of got to get over it. No one's got a job that they love 100% of every facet of that job. And unfortunately, if you are a creative and you're doing that because you love it, invoicing, self-promotion, social media marketing, general day-to-day admin is a part of that. For me, I would say it comes down to a little bit of time management. I think the way I see it is you're not going to be, and I'm sure it's the same with you, nobody is creative 100% of the time. And in the moments that you're not creative, that's the time to just unwind and say, right, okay, I'm a little bit creatively taxed at the moment. I'm going to park my creative endeavor, whatever that may be, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time. I'm going to spend the next hour doing this. Nobody likes doing admin. It's not, and that is not just exclusive to the arts and creative sector whatsoever. That is everywhere. But what if you're a PA? You must love it if you've chosen to do it.
Yeah, if you've chosen to do that as a job, God, well done to you. But they probably have a really good creative outlet at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, it is a necessary thing. But I do think it all comes for me in balance.
Yeah, I think you need to schedule the set hours in the week that you're going to sit and do it and dedicate it to that. And like I do it, if I know there's certain things that I have to do, I will sort of say to myself as an adult in his 30s, if you do this for these 2 hours, this is the reward I'll give you at the end. It's very much like that with me. And like, that's how I've got to do things that I don't want to do.
You know, at the end of this podcast, I've got a bar of chocolate for you.
See? And that's how he got me in this studio today. I knew I was getting a reward at the end. It is that simple.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is not
I think you need to set yourself structured days where you do these things. If you've got friends who are in the creative sector, maybe a good way to do it would be to say to them, can we sort of align our calendars so that we do them at the same time?
Absolutely.
Maybe you meet up at a coffee shop or you go to each other's houses or each other's studios and you sit down and do it, because you're kind of holding yourself accountable to another person.
Have you seen this? There's an admin party that people do.
No.
I promise you it's a thing. I have not made it up in my sleep. Once a month, people are getting together and are bringing all their horrible admin tasks together. And this isn't
horrible.
I know. But what they're doing it with wine, right? And they bring everyone they bring everyone together, and that's all they do is they bring their paperwork and all their rubbish that they know they have to do, that they've been putting off. They bring it all together, and as you're sat there doing your admin work, I'm sat here doing my admin work, and we get to moan about it together as a table of 8 or 10 people in a coffee shop. It provides work for the coffee shop or the wine bar or wherever it might be. And at the end of the evening, you have done all the clerical, boring stuff that you want to do. And at the same time, you're leaving there knowing you've done that and you've seen your friends at the same time.
So there you go, Jack. Maybe look into something like that, or maybe set something like that.
Set it up.
Yeah, in your local area. So,
We'd come.
Yeah, I would say that, you just need to set the time aside.
Yeah.
And just be persistent. Yeah, do it with other people because it'll hold you accountable. You're not the only one that doesn't like this type of work. Most creatives don't like get excited at the thought that, oh yeah, it's Friday, I get to do my admin before I go out and have a little drink with my friends.
Who was saying that?
No, nobody. So yeah, I think it's just part and parcel of life, the industry, things you have to do. You can't leave them, especially things like invoicing, because you'll never get paid.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that, Jack. Thank you for that, Jack.
you're welcome. This episode of Pain in the Arts is supported by Whirlwind Communications, founded by Nia Williams.
So Nia works with arts organisations, charities and creative projects across Wales, supporting them with public affairs policy and communications, particularly where culture, community and decision-making all intersect.
At a time when the arts are under real pressure in Wales, and with the upcoming Senate election, that is likely to be the biggest shake-up in decades, Whirlwind Communications exists to help creative voices be heard clearly, confidently and in the right rooms.
You can find out so much more by searching for raywin.co.uk. Shall we go with question 2?
Let's. So question 2 is from Omar, and he said, I feel like the Welsh creative sector is small, and so everybody knows each other. Not being originally from Wales, I'm wondering if I'll always be on the outside. Are there groups or ways to get into the Welsh art scene? I've had this, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When I'm from Wales, I'm from Cardiff, I've always been quite linked to the creative sector, but maybe always more certain sectors than the other. And then when I've tried to break into others or get to know people in others, I am sometimes met with slight hostility, I would say, maybe. Is the correct word.
Let me give you an example of that. I obviously won't mention names or anything, but do you remember a meeting that we had probably about a year ago now, maybe a little bit longer, where you were basically told, although you're very well known in X sector, you're not known in Y sector, and therefore you will not be included.
Yeah, you're not known.
Genuinely.
You're not known in this sector, therefore no one will work with you in that capacity. And I'm not the only creative that's been told
No,
that.
absolutely not.
I kind of got a little bit angry after that meeting, and I remember going around and sort of messaging a few people that I knew, saying, I can't believe this person has just said this to me. Like, how inept.
Yeah.
A thought process that because you're a creative, but I'm going to basically put you in this box, and that is not how creativity works. And so many of them come back to me and basically said, yep, that's the same experience I've had.
Yeah.
And so it is something, I think, because we are, like Omar said, we are quite a small industry really, and we do all get to know each other through events and things like that. It can feel quite daunting and intimidating to break into.
Yeah.
But the thing you've got to remember, Omar, is as many existing people that there are in the sector, there are the same amount, if not more, new people coming up and through the sector. So they're the people you need to get to know. And I think that's how I've sort of come up into the sector and been known by a lot of people, because I instantly was attracted to the people that were new in the industry and were coming up in all the different areas of the creative spheres that they were coming up in. And I could focus on the people that were already established, but they were already being talked about. They were already being told how amazing they were at what they were doing. But they were younger people or newer people, not even younger, but just newer people in the industry who were coming up. And they were making equally good things.
I think for me, it's incredibly important that if you haven't found your people yet, create the circle for yourself.
Yeah.
And create the creative hub for yourself. And that could be going back to the admin thing that we talked about earlier. That could be meeting up, networking with people. I say networking, I use that very loosely. But bringing people together and just having conversations, because once you're a big enough group of people, you become the part of the art sector in Wales by proxy. So even when you are on the inside of the art sector and the arts and creative sector in Wales, in any aspect, UK-wide, worldwide, you still do feel that you're on the outside of a certain part of that sector as well. I know one guy who is he knows everyone in the art sector except everybody in the art sector that I know. It's very, very strange where we both seem to have these circles of people that have never ever crossed over.
A new person connects with you on a social media platform, and you know that that person that you're talking about will be a mutual.
Yes,
And it always
100%.
happens every single time. And I think I like to connect with the people that I have no mutuals with necessarily, because then I know that I'm entering a new sphere by getting to know them.
Creepy.
No, I think I think it's a healthy way to work in the industry, to be
It's-
honest. Otherwise, it will stay in this really stale, stagnant area that it's slowly reaching, to be honest. And I think we're seeing it more and more, where you see like venues are bringing in new blood, and they're bringing in new leadership and new management, and you can walk into these spaces and it almost feels lighter and it feels new. You're looking around thinking, have they painted? Is there something? And it isn't, they haven't. It's just because there's new people there, and the vibe shifts in the place, and the exhibitions that go on in there, or the productions and the plays that go on in there start changing and fitting this person, and they feel different and new and vibrant, a real reflection of what this sector is right here, right now.
And that's what it needs to be.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you are the change. So you need to make that. Oh, that sounds very prolific, doesn't it? You are the change, so you need to create that change around you. You need to be that change, and you need to
Some people
embody
don't
it,
like
force
to
your way
break the
through.
status quo. They like the way their world is. They like it's cushy and that it's always worked the same way for the last 30, 40, 50 years. They don't want to change it. And they could maybe,
I see
these
this every
people
day.
are seeing you, or like me when I was new in the sector, they're seeing me as a disruptor of that. And that I could be potentially the person that means things have to change for them, and they don't like that. But you will inevitably, even if they open arm welcomed you in, you would probably quickly find out that they're not the people that you would want to be around, because they're so stuck in their ways, or they're doing things in a way that isn't done anymore. So I think going out there and finding new people, like you said, making your own opportunities, making your own circle of people, a really great example of that is Ty, who created Clat.
Yes, Clat
because
magazine,
he came to the UK from Nigeria.
I believe so.
Sort of, was instantly wanting to be in the creative industries, and probably felt the same friction that you felt, that I felt, that a lot of us have felt coming up into this industry new. Like I went once as an apprentice in a gallery before, and on my first day when I went in there, the lady behind the desk looked me up and down and went, "Oh great, the dog's body's here." And I thought, wow, if this is where we're going, if this is how this industry is going to treat me, I don't think I want to be here.
Yeah.
And I was always raised.
I know that venue well.
Yes, I was always raised that respect is earned, regardless of age, status. Like, there's always people that, like teachers and police and things like that you respect. But when you're out there in the big wide world as an adult, it doesn't matter someone's age or anything like that. You have to earn each other's respect, mutual respect for each other. And that instantly sort of put me on the back foot there, and thought, I don't know if I like this place, if I want to stay, if I would stay here, or if I'd even endorse this sort of place. So yeah, people like Ty, he created Clat so that he could be pulling his people and his vibe and what he wanted to shape his own corner of the creative sector in Wales to be like. And it is booming. Like, we were at last year's Clat Awards, you were the host of it.
Yes.
I won an award at it, which was phenomenal. And to be sat in a room with all of these creatives who, since that, we've gone on to meet
great connections
a lot of these people and get on really well with them. Captain Flood Molyneux is one of them, the artist. Monique from Cardiff Content Club is another one.
She's amazing.
Well, we have met so many people that we wouldn't have maybe, I don't think our paths, especially like Monique, I don't think our paths would have crossed for a while.
No.
I think it's one of those things where we would have been aware of each other through social media, but in actual fact, from where we live to where the content club is about a 2-minute drive. And we probably would never have naturally crossed paths, only ever seen each other through social media, which is quite sad, really.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So people like Ty is creating his own, he's carving out his own section and saying, this is mine, and anyone like me is welcome to it. Anyone new and thriving and up and coming is welcome to it. And they've embraced that with open arms. So there are things out there for people who are new to the industry. But if you still don't feel like it's for you, or if anything that's out there is for you, do what Ty did. Create your own.
Create your own. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Omar. That was question 2. Do we have time for question 3, do you think? Because the first one was quite quick. Shall we give question 3?
We do have a third question, actually. So we'll go with this one, actually, because it is quite an interesting question. So it's from Bethan, who has asked, do you have any examples or practical advice for pricing creative artwork? I paint as well as do voiceover part-time, and I'm concerned I'm undervaluing myself and being taken advantage of with multiple revisions.
Now, this one struck a chord with me because I know that we have a lot of questions that come through the podcast that are all akin to this. It's just
pricing and how you price your work and value yourself. It's always been a contentious thing. It was always something that was heatedly talked about in university.
Yeah.
Is how you price your work and what your correct pricing should be.
Yeah. I think for me, it's you need to ensure that your time is valued. We know a particular artist, fantastic artist. She was in uni with both you and I at one point, really randomly. And is a fantastic creative. At the same time, I've had several discussions with her years ago now about how to value her work, and she said, "I have no idea how to price my work. I have no idea." And the answer is usually, it's your time. Yeah. It's your time plus your materials, and you should value your time. Now, what you value your time as is completely up to you. For me, you should be valuing your time at the very least at minimum wage.
Because if you're not doing what you're doing for at least minimum wage, there's no point you doing it because you're not earning a living.
Exactly.
I would not even be considering minimum wage. I'd be considering living wage.
Oh, yeah.
But living wage should be the lowest bar you should achieve, really.
Benchmark yourself. Say, I am going to work on this piece of pottery, this what is it? Paintwork, sorry. Paintwork.
They also do voiceover work as well.
No. Now, I can see where revisions would come in for voiceover work, but if we just address the paint side of things for the moment, say that one piece takes you 20 hours. You time yourself 20 hours. And if that's taken you 20 hours, 20 times whatever your rate is, plus your cost of material, that is where you start. That is where you start. And you don't go any lower than that. And I know that sounds really awful because you think, that's a lot of money. That's, are people going to pay this? Well, you need to value yourself. Yeah. You really need to value what you're outputting into the world. And if you're thinking, I'll only charge half that because, I'm only worth half of that, you're instantly devaluing yourself.
And you'll end up ultimately making enemies in the sector because if you're producing certain works that have sort of similarities to other types of work and they're charging the going rate because they're established artists, sometimes consumers will just buy what's cheapest, not what is... this was that we've had questions in the past with it, which are, do you go more on visuals or concept? And, we have our own takes on that, but some people literally buy it because it looks nice in their living room.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they'll go with the cheaper out of the two of it. They forget that there's a person behind it. It's not a mass-produced thing. So I think pricing is something that in this sort of sector, you do need to look at what other people are pricing and try and reverse engineer it so that you're fitting in correctly somewhere. Because you don't want to undercut another creative, especially if you're doing really similar work or you're in really similar close proximities to each other.
Can I add into that at the same time, if you've got that original piece that was, say, if you worked it out, materials plus your time came to, let's say, £1,000, and you think, do you know what, people aren't going to pay £1,000 for that. One person might do, but it might take 2 years and it'll be sat on a wall or in a cupboard until then. We'll have to do a separate podcast on this, but we'll have... do something that's effectively in the product pyramid. So
do something cheaper.
Make cheaper versions of it. Make reproductions.
It could just be a case that the bet in here is maybe a new artist, newish to the sector. And I do think you won't instantly get the target price for your work when you're new, because a good artist is a marketing machine.
Yes,
and people will buy from people that they know names. They know names that they recognise. So you need to have the sort of marketing right first in order to be able to achieve what you want. But that doesn't mean that what it is you want as your end goal, you can't be looking into how you can maybe do it cheaper. Yeah. So that your overall cost price comes down. So it's the start of getting yourself out there. It's the start of the marketing machine going. Whether or not that's, getting your stuff printed onto things like tote bags or canvases or into smaller prints. One thing that I used to quite like doing, and it's often something that I'll probably end up going back to at some point because it's a process that I love, is lino cutting.
Oh, yes.
Because once you've done that once, you've got it to replicate for a lot. And they can be quite cost-effective things to sell. And they sometimes are better than having prints.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it is real. It's not printed onto... Do you know what I mean? It's not printed to a printer. When people touch it and see that, I've got a lot of lino prints from a lot of different artists because I love them. And they're a great entry point. if I could, I would live in a house that had art on every wall that you couldn't see the paintwork beneath it. But I don't live in a house that big. I can't do that.
Been to a house like that, though, haven't we? In Liverpool.
We have.
Yes.
But I just think if lino cuts are a good thing for me to be able to buy as something from that artist, and then I have something small of theirs that at least I can say I own that, and that'll be an entry point to a lot of your customers then, and because it's cheaper, they'll buy it, and then they'll sort of keep track of you, and they'll keep track of your work, and they'll be like, oh, I wonder what that person is up to now, I wonder what they're making now, and then they might buy a bigger piece off you, or someone might visit them and say, that's really nice, I like that, and then they pass you in it. And so you do need to sort of grow into the industry, I think, to achieve this end goal. So I think maybe you need to find more cost-effective things to make first, bring your lower your overheads a little bit, and stuff like that, and only maybe have one or two bigger pieces that would be more expensive as more of a showcase, of what it is you can do.
I do think, and just very, very specifically on the voiceover and what was the other one? The revisions in the if revisions refers to voiceover, yes. For me, from a voiceover perspective, when you price yourself, just give them as part of your quote a maximum of 2 revisions, 3 revisions, and any subsequent revisions beyond those 2 or 3, you need to set yourself a base price for, most certainly.
And you stick firm to your convictions. Once you've said, this, and say, for example, 2 revisions, that's it, 2 revisions.
Yeah. As much as you may burn a bridge there, you'll earn the respect of far more people as a result.
Definitely.
And oh, good God, that sounded serious, didn't it?
I know.
That was serious, that one. So we've...
But I hope we've helped. I hope we've helped everyone today. They were quite deep questions.
They were, but we went through those at a pace, didn't we?
I know. 3 questions in one episode.
I know.
Bang for your buck.
So, what have we got coming up? Oh, I'm throwing lights around the place. What have we got coming up this week?
Well, like we said, mixed up tape. My mixed up tape in the Sherman Theatre, which I'm quite excited for.
Yes.
We're going to head down to the Botanical Gardens.
That's this week.
Because Nathan Wyburn's got an exhibition down there. It's a culmination of everything he did leading up to St. David's Day. It's on for all of March. If anyone wants to pop down there and have a look at it.
And the Botanical Gardens, I've never ever been there as a Welsh person, and it's been open for years.
Yeah, no, I've never been there either. I've driven past it a lot.
Yeah.
When I used to be a designer, and I used to do a lot of houses in West Wales.
Yes.
I'd always drive past it and say to myself, I need to go there, and then never did.
Yeah.
But yes, we're doing that. We're also in the cabaret. Gagged. Yes. So that's hosted by the guy who is Alan Carr's podcast co-host.
Yes.
And he's also the warm-up comedian for Loose Women. So he does that. Yeah. But that's how most comedians make their bread and butter, is the warm-ups for big chat shows and things like that. So
I guess they need all the humour they can get.
So he's
I've sat and watched that.
So he's the host of that. And it's a showcase of queer up-and-coming comedians.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I've just said yes to it, so I'm looking forward to it.
I'm quite excited for that. I do love comedy. And I like people's different approaches to comedy.
So far this year, I know we're only in mid-March, but for me, so far this year, Ria, Lena, and Reb as the duo that for one performance, they were absolutely phenomenal.
They were in the cabaret a couple of weeks ago, weren't they? And Reb definitely one to watch. They're going to be a good headline act at some point soon.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for new comedians. Julia Davis is my favourite.
Oh, I love Julia Davis. Oh, we should watch something from her later.
Nighty Night.
Oh, I love Nighty Night.
Yeah.
Yes. If you've not seen Nighty Night, that should be our community shout out for the week.
It should.
No, it's not. No. What is our? Are we doing a community shout out for this week?
Spotlighting Anthem.
Yes. Have you seen my Instagram post?
No. Please tell them.
Let me tell you. Okay. Right. So Rebecca.
Wait. Okay.
Okay. In case you're listening rather than watching this at the moment, Jack has just sat back and picked up his cup.
We're going to be here a while.
No, it's not a long story, I promise.
Settle in, get a hot drink or a bubbly milk. If you're a Julia Davis fan, you'll know what I mean by that.
Oh. Rebecca from Anthem got in touch with me via LinkedIn, and she said, we're doing this fundraising campaign. Every pound that gets donated is doubled for the next so often. All the details, I'm sure, are on their socials. What we'd like is for as many people as possible to post about their first connection to music. And she was one of the people watching the podcast, and she heard about me lugging, last week when I was talking about lugging a brass instrument up and down a hill. So she said it would be great if you could put that in a post. So I put it on LinkedIn, and I put she said, if you could put a couple of stories and just emulate what I've written. So I said, right, I'll do the one where I was lugging the brass instrument up and down the hill. The second story I'll do will be about doing a drama degree and having sang. I use air quotes there because you came and sat through that. That wasn't singing. And then
Is it a clip here?
no, not here. Absolutely not. And then that's probably on YouTube somewhere, I'd imagine. Let's not go finding that. And then the third one was when I said it was an absolutely fantastic experience. Do you remember when you and me were sat in a green room in Ireland once with Samantha Mumba and being fed cheese by Blur?
Yes.
Right. So
we weren't like eating magic mushrooms. That really did happen.
That really did happen. That was such a surreal experience.
Yeah, that was odd.
But then having those musicians around you and being, because Samantha Mumba at the time was doing really well as a musician. You don't really hear from her now.
Well, I remember you were in makeup and I was sat in the green room and I'd spotted her because she was in this like big fur coat, and I was like, Samantha Mumba, stay cool. That don't. And he walks straight in, sits down next to me and looks at me and goes, "That's Samantha Mumba."
I was such an embarrassment.
And I lost my full edge instantly.
You did, yeah. Oh, it was great fun. But yeah, so as a result, Anthem fundraising, they're a fantastic advocacy service for music in Wales. And they also help provide resources so that people can get music and get musical instruments into schools so that people can start their musical journey in Wales. So that's Anthem.
Great.
There you go.
Great.
That was my little part of my community shout out for this week.
So yeah, I think that's it. Now we're done.
Is that it? I think so.
Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, head on over to our socials. You've got Mr. Christopher Birch over here, who is his act will be appearing somewhere, and mine. You can follow us. You can find all of the clips. You can find all the links to follow the podcast and submit questions.
Yes, and if you love this, please like, share, subscribe. Everything you do. Honestly, it helps really grow this podcast, and it keeps us going here every Thursday.
It does. It fuels me on a Wednesday when we record this. I think, great, we're going to do the podcast.
Or very early on a Thursday morning.
That's really sarcastic then. No, I mean it genuinely. I like that I just can sort of explode everything that's happened in a week at one place, and then people clearly want to listen to it.
Yeah.
But,
and then we're going to go for chocolate after this, I can imagine.
Yeah, great.
Yes, thank you so much. We will be back next week for much more creative chaos on Pain in the Arts. Have a great week.